Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. We were curious about how the pandemic might affect Thanksgiving travel this year. So we went to the man with all of the travel answers, Robert Sinclair, Senior Manager of Public Affairs at AAA. Thanks so much for doing this. As always, I imagine you're getting a lot of calls right now because we're headed into one of the biggest travel times in the country every single year, except I guess during the pandemic. Is travel back?
Travel is nearly back. We're at 5% of pre-pandemic levels, 5% of what we saw in 2019. And in the tri-state area, back in 2019, we were seeing the worst congestion in the history of the city of New York. So to be back at nearly that level is very busy indeed. And we're still seeing a lot of people shunning public transportation with ridership down on New Jersey Transit and Long Island Railroad and Metro North. And they're not riding the trains. What are they doing? They're driving their cars. And so the roads are particularly busy right now.
Well, it's interesting because the traffic's going to be a real barometer as to where we are right now, because a lot of people are still a little wary of having big family gatherings or big Thanksgiving or Christmas gatherings. But you've seen this uptick. Will we be back to where we've been in the past?
According to our projections, we're going to be nearly there, but you're right. This recent uptick that we're seeing globally, Germany and Eastern Europe and certain cities and states around the country might put a damper on things. And I think that if there's any positive coming out of it, the Saudis were very prescient in that they did not want to increase oil production because they feared a resurgence of COVID and the lessening of demand. And that seems to be coming true. And so we're still seeing gasoline prices that are the highest since 2014. But those who want to travel will not be deterred by high gasoline prices, traffic, or crowded airports, or anything else. There is a lot of pent up demand, of wanderlust for people to get out there and travel. AAA is one of the largest leisure travel agencies, and our bookings are 40, 50% above where they have been for the rest of this year and on into next year for domestic and international travel. So it's going to be busy, we think, as especially the day before Thanksgiving, with commuters mixing with those holiday travelers. I would anticipate just crowded roads, crowded skies, crowded every means of transportation for this holiday.
That's fascinating that gas prices do not seem to deter travel. And that's what you're saying, right?
Right. Never has. I remember when we hit $4 a gallon in 2008, folks were still traveling overwhelmingly by motor vehicle. In the past, it would be 80, 85% of those who would travel would drive to their destinations. This year, it's 90%. And gasoline prices as high as they are, it's not stopping people. Generally, gasoline is 10 to 15% of the travel budget. I remember in '08, most families have two vehicles, a small economy car and a big SUV. And so they might have switched to the smaller economy vehicle back then. That might be the case now, but it's not going to stop anybody. They just bite the bullet and keep driving. Interestingly, though, in 2018, March of 2018, during a much better economy, we did a survey of drivers asking them what the pain point was for gasoline prices. And 40% said $3 a gallon. Now, this economy not rebounding as yet, I think that number might be lower and for a greater percentage of drivers. So it's not easy. Drivers said that they would have to cut back in some other part of the family budget. They wouldn't be able to go out to a restaurant. They wouldn't be able to make a purchase of a major appliance, something like that. They would have to combine their errands with their commute. But it's a tough situation, but I think they're just going to bite the bullet, grin and bear it, and take that trip no matter what.
I think cabin fever has a lot to do with that too, that people are willing to pay the extra price just because they've been inside for so long and they want to get out. Let me ask you about the travel that you mentioned, because I didn't even think of that about AAA. Of course, you make travel plans for millions of people across the country. Do you have the information on where people are going? Are they avoiding crowded areas?
They're going to the Caribbean. They're going to Orlando. They're going to Las Vegas, Anaheim, Hawaii. And the international travelers, they want to take a river cruise somewhere in Europe, and particularly in Germany. So that's really it's they're really getting out there and
No,
doing
it's under it. What you're saying is it's the same travel as always. It really hasn't changed. You keep hearing people want to go to bed and breakfast. They want to be isolated. They want to just be with their family. Orlando's Disney World.
exactly
The river cruises are Viking cruises down in Germany, and so they're with people. They're crowded. They're the same travel as always. In a way, it's a good sign because it means things are getting back to normal. But it does mean that people are going to be around other people and there's crowds again and we're spiking.
The one thing that I don't have the sheer numbers on is cruising. People are definitely going to Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Aruba, Cancun, those kind of places, taking a cruise. Don't have the sheer numbers though. And we know that during the middle of the summer, there was a test cruise and something like 25 people came back COVID positive. So there is still that perhaps hesitancy or let's say lack of available space as far as cruising is concerned. That other category, which is trains, buses, and cruises, is much higher than last year, more than 1 million compared to about 230,000 last year. But cruising is still that kind of X factor that's lagging behind. It will be interesting to see what happens with the surge and if that affects cruising. Will there be more or less coming out of more ports or fewer ports? We'll have to see.
I'm going to ask you an impossible question, one that's easy to answer for 3As, one that I think is a little bit more difficult, and that is, where are gas prices now? That's the easy one. Where are they going?
Ooh. Well, let's see, 363 in the city of New York. All right. New Jersey is at 345. New Jersey is about the same as a week ago. What's really distressing about these prices is that these are the peak prices of the year. This time of year, we're accustomed to seeing prices go down. There's the normal cycle, the rise and fall of gasoline prices. They peak sometime in May, June, July, sometimes as late as August. Then they start trending downward as demand goes down with the end of the summer driving season after Labor Day. That's not the case this year. Prices are at the highest of the year. And back in 2020, when gasoline was $1.20, $1.25 cheaper, we peaked in May. But we're at the peak now. Where we go remains to be seen. It's really based on a global commodity, a globally traded and priced commodity, crude oil. As I mentioned earlier, the Saudis decided not to increase production beyond those levels of 480,000 barrel per day increase that they did a couple months ago. But last year, they cut it by nearly 2 million barrels per day. And as go the Saudis, so goes OPEC plus. And with this, I won't say lack of crude oil, but limited supply of crude oil, it looks like gasoline prices are going to stay the same. Crude oil did drop a little bit last week. They were upwards of $84 a barrel, and then we were down to $80 a barrel at the beginning this week. And I think that was a result of the Biden administration signaling that it might release oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Oil and gasoline market is extremely fickle. It's something real or imagined can lead to price swings of major proportions. Some terrorist group says it's going to mine the Straits of Hormuz or do something, and then price goes up, and then something happens and it goes back down. And really, there were no real consequences. Nothing really happened. So it's really a fickle market, and drivers are subject to this fickle market and at the mercy of this fickle market and suffering as a result.
See, I said it was a difficult question. It wasn't for you. You're the best. Thank you so much. Enjoy your holidays.
Thank you very much. You do the same. Please be safe. Don't drink and drive. Make sure the vehicle's in good shape before you hit the road. We're anticipating 400,000 breakdowns among AAA members for the 5-day holiday. Flat tires, dead batteries. Get them checked before you hit the road.
Information even in the goodbye. Thank you, sir. Robert Sinclair, Senior Manager, Public Affairs, AAA. Still to come, the youngest chess grandmaster in history is from New Jersey. You'll meet him next.